So guys, welcome back to this week's episode of Unleash Your Inner Greatness. And I am so honored and excited to introduce you to today's guest. Dr. John De Martini is an author, international speaker, global educator, and considered one of the world's leading authorities on human behavior and personal development. He is the founder of the Demartini Institute, a private research and education organisation with a curriculum of over 72 different courses covering multiple aspects of human development. Dr. De Martini is also an incredible catalyst for personal transformation through programs such as the Demartini Value Determination process and the breakthrough experience, where he enables people to truly understand what drives them to live an authentic life. Having studied over 30,000 books across many different academic disciplines, Dr. De Martini has synthesized his wisdom of the ages, which he shares in over 60 countries. I am so honored and excited and thrilled to introduce and welcome Dr. De Martini to the show. Dr. De Martini, welcome to Unleash Your Inner Greatness.
Well, thank you. Thank you for having me. I was looking forward to it this evening, so it's great.
And you're in our hometown, or my hometown, Melbourne. What are you doing there at the moment?
Well, I just got in today. I came in from Los Angeles, and I am doing podcasts and interviews today and tomorrow. And then on the weekend, I'm doing my signature program, The Breakthrough Experience. And Monday, I'm doing a program on how to transform frustration into amazing accomplishment and to turning setbacks into comebacks, you might say. And then I'm off to, I think, Dubai and then Serbia. So I'll be there this week. It's coming week.
I'll never say that I'm jealous of your life, but I'm so inspired by what you do. And this interview is going to absolutely blow the listeners' minds away. So I want to ground you in a beautiful place, though, to start with, Dr. De Martini. And I just wanted to ask you what you're most grateful for in your life right now, and what was the highlight of 2018 for you?
Well, I mean, I have a lot to be grateful for. I keep a record every single day and evening on what I had the opportunity to experience during the day. So this podcast and the other podcast and meetings, people I meet, things I get to do, I document every day. So I have a list of 4,500 and something pages of thank yous, all 10-point print, 1-inch margins that I've been keeping record of. So I have tons of things to be thankful for. I think one of the highlights for 2018 or 19 already?
For last year, 2018.
Well, I had the opportunity to go to 4 more countries. I've been to now 149 countries. By the end of this year, it'll be probably 150 countries now. And so that's, my goal was 200 and something countries, every country, and I haven't reached it yet. So we're right at 150. So we got about another 60 to go or so. And so reaching another 4 countries with live presentations and media and having students from every country around the world now has been a highlight. I had the opportunity to work with some prime ministers and some presidents last year. I had the opportunity to work with conflict resolution, which I'm about to do again in about 2 weeks between the Palestinians and Israelis. I've been asked to do a movie on a documentary on my life. I mean, there's lots of things that have been, I mean, I could just go on and on with things that I've been grateful for. Meeting amazing people and getting to do amazing things. So I can't complain.
That's awesome. We share a mutual passion of travel, but I think the gratitude is something that I've learnt I've pretty much learnt through your teachings. Why has it been so influential as part of your overall happiness and your journey?
Well, I was born on Thanksgiving Day, so that probably had a factor.
Okay.
My mom put me to sleep when I was 4, and she said, "Son, make sure you count your blessings. Those are grateful for what they have. You get more to be grateful for." And I found out many years ago that if I was cocky and proud and self-righteous and puffed and inflated and had a superiority complex, nature had a way of humbling me. pride before the fall, I guess you could say. And if I didn't listen to my physiology, my psychology, my sociology, or the collective psychology to try to get me back into balance, I was wiser to stop and at the end of the day, humble myself if I was cocky, or lift myself if I was down. So I started asking a series of questions about 36 years ago on anything. Anytime I felt I was up and I wasn't grateful for the day, I asked questions to bring me down back into the center. And anytime I was down, I would have questions to lift me up to the center until I would get a tear of gratitude where I felt authentic and I felt my mission at the forefront. And I found a balance between my narcissistic ambitions and my altruistic aim, where it was a nice blend of equity and equanimity. And I found that that's where I have the most consistent opportunities to accomplish and achieve and fulfillment in life. So I do that because it just works. So I just learned from my own experience and from using our reasoning that to not wait to the world on the outside to kick you into balance. Just do it from the inside.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Thank you, Dr. De Martini. It's such a powerful practice and definitely one that's been influential in my life. So I really appreciate that. You've had such an incredible journey, and I know you ask this question a lot, but for the listeners who don't perhaps know you on the show, would it be possible for you, Dr. De Martini, to take us back to the start and give us a little bit of an insight into the journey as to how you got to where you are today?
Well, I mean, you want to go right back to the when I came out of the womb?
No, not obviously not right back there, but you know, perhaps when the real fundamental shifts change, you know, happened in your life, the real turning points.
Well, I was born with my arm and leg turned in and had to wear braces from about 1.5 years old to 4. I had a speech pathologist that I had to go to when I was also 1.5. Had to wear buttons in my mouth and strings and use exercises in my mouth to try to pronounce. I also had buck teeth, which I got corrected by a horse incident. By the time I was in 1st grade, my teacher told my parents, "I'm afraid your son's not going to be able to read. He's not going to be able to write, not be able to communicate, go very far, or amount to anything," because I definitely had learning problems. I didn't read till I was 18. And I ended up dropping out of school and was a street kid as a teenager, and lived in a bowling alley, in a car, a park, eventually the beach, and under bridges and all kind of things as a street kid. But I was decent in sports. I wasn't good in academics, but I was decent in sports, and I picked up surfing, believe it or not, in Texas. But I wanted to go to California, so I hitchhiked when I was 14 to California and down into Mexico to surf. And then at 15, I panhandled enough money to be able to fly to North Shore of Oahu. And I lived on the North Shore and rode big waves. I learned how to surf big waves when I was there. And I did that until I was 17 and 18, and nearly died a few weeks before my 18th birthday. And in the recovery of that, I was led to a health food store and then led to a talk that Paul C. Bragg was speaking at. And this man in 1 hour and one night with one message spoke to me in a way that just got to me. And that was the night I thought just maybe I could overcome my learning problems and learn how to read and become intelligent someday. I never thought I was going to be intelligent. I always thought I'd be good in sports, but never learning. And that was the night that I had a vision as a result of this speech to overcome my learning problems, learn how to read, learn how to speak properly. And I wanted to be intelligent and become a teacher. So I had a dream then to travel the world and to learn and teach. And here I am 46 years plus later, going on my 47th year, and going on 65, and here I am doing it. So that was a significant turning point. The very thing that I was told I would probably never do became the thing that most inspired me.
It's ironic how you actually come into my life at the age of 30 and a bit. I actually lost my marriage and spiraled into quite a deep state of depression. And ultimately one night became quite suicidal. So I relate to almost losing my life as well. So it's almost, sometimes it's the difficult times that really allow us to dig deep, to truly understand their path. So it's such an inspiring story. And I really wanted to ask you that, because stories can really transform lives.
Well, I'm very blessed. When I first moved back from Hawaii to come back to Texas, I flew to Los Angeles and hitchhiked back to Texas. My parents encouraged me to take a GED, which is a general education degree, which is a high school equivalency, because I never finished high school. And then I took that test with an affirmation saying in my head that Paul Bragg gave me: I'm a genius and I apply my wisdom, because I told him I couldn't read. And he said to say that every single day, never miss a day. And somehow I mysteriously guessed and passed the friggin' test. So I had me a high school degree all of a sudden. And then my parents said, well, why don't you take a college entrance exam? And I did the same thing, and I just closed my eyes and I just guessed and said this little affirmation, and somehow I passed. It was really quite amazing. And I thought, okay, maybe I got this little affirmation is going to give me some sort of advantage here. And then I took my first summer school college class, and I got my first test score, and I got a 27. Everybody else had 75 and above. I got a 27. And I really was devastated by that. And I remember crying on the way home and driving home. First I slid down in the car where nobody could see me, ran to my car and slid down. And then I finally drove off, and I was really devastated, because I thought this whole thing about being a teacher and learning maybe it was a delusion. And I curled up in a fetal position underneath this Bible stand when I got home in the living room. And my mom came home from shopping, and she said, son, what's wrong? What happened? She hadn't seen me cry in a long time. And I said, Mom, I blew it. I guess I don't have what it takes. I guess I'll never read or write or communicate. Never amount thing, never go very far in life, like our first grade teacher said. And she just looked at me for a second. Then she put her hand on my shoulder and she said, son, whether you become a great teacher, healer, philosopher, and travel the world like you dream, whether you go back to riding big waves on the North Shore and become a big wave surfer like you've done, or whether you return to the streets and panhandle as a bum like you've done, I just want to let you know that your father and I are going to love you no matter what you do. And when she said that, my hand went into a fist, and I looked up, and I saw the vision that I saw the night I met Paul Bragg, of me standing in front of 1 million people. And I said to myself, I'm going to master this thing called reading, studying, and learning, teaching, philosophy, and healing. And I'm going to do whatever it takes. I'm going to travel whatever distance. I'm going to pay whatever price to give my service of love across the planet. And I'm not going to let any human being on the face of the earth, not even myself, interfere with it. And I was more than determined. And I hugged my mom, and I went into my room, and I got a Funk and Wagnall's dictionary out. And I started memorizing 30 words a day. And I would spell them, pronounce them, use them in a sentence, and get the meaning of them. And my mom, the definition, and my mom would test me on 30 words a day. And if I made an error, I had to go back and do it again until I didn't make any errors. And I had to accumulate 30 words a day until I was able to pass school. With the help of my mom, when I did start to pass, man, I just was so determined. I mean, I was starting to read 18 to 20 hours a day, and I just wanted to learn, and I started excelling. And my speaking career began because people started to see that I was so determined, and people started asking me questions. And I started tutoring and teaching, and I was amazed what happened. And a year later, right before my 19th birthday, my mom asked me what I wanted for my birthday for Christmas. And I said, Mom, I want the greatest teachings on the face of the earth, the greatest writings by the greatest minds from around the world that have ever been compiled. And she said, are you sure you don't want a t-shirt? I said, no, Mom, I want the greatest teachings on the face of the earth. Well, let me see what I can do. So she contacted her brother, who was a professor at MIT. And he sent to our house as a gift 2 giant 6 by 6 by 6 foot wooden crates that were put off a flatbed truck onto our front yard. And with a crowbar, I went out there and opened it up, and I filled my room with thousands of books. And he sent me books on every imaginable topic, from physics to mathematics to chemistry to you name it, archaeology. And I started devouring these books and living at the library when I was at school. And I just read 18 to 20 hours a day until my vocabulary was catching up with everybody else and surpassing them. And I never stopped. And I just spent, I used to read at least 50 to 70 books a week on average. And I just kept going and just learned how to read and just went devouring it into speed reading. And I just wanted to know the laws of the universe. And I just wanted to find the most universal principles to build a foundation of knowledge that I could share with people around the world. So that's why I do that every day. And here I am today. I'm working away. I carry with me books everywhere I go.
That's amazing. And obviously through all that journey, you developed the Demartini Institute, and you're in Melbourne to facilitate the breakthrough experience. What I like to do as part of the show is to honor the speaker's work. Would you be able to, because I think fundamentally that is the work that you use to transform other people's lives, would it be okay to let us know a little bit about the breakthrough experience?
Well, the breakthrough experience is something I've done now. This weekend will be 1,059 times. So I've been doing it for 30 years, 43 times a year plus. And I've done this program in about 60, by the end of the year, it'll be about 65, 66 countries. It is my attempt to do what that gentleman did for me when I was 17. It is about a 26-hour experience over a weekend. So we go from 8 in the morning till at least midnight, come back and spend a full day the next day. And I help people identify what their values are, what's truly important and priority, what their life demonstrates, not the fantasies and delusions that people sometimes compare their life to. I show them how to structure and prioritize their actions, set goals that are not fantasies, that are chunked down into real actions. I show them how to not subordinate to people on the outside and inject other people's influence into them so they are able to be authentic and not distracted by all the expectations and infiltrations of other people. Because most people conform and subordinate and live in the shadows of people instead of stand on the shoulders of giants. And I show people how to grow their self-worth, dissolve pretty well any emotional baggage that they might have had in their life, any resentments, any infatuations, any prides and shames, any guilts, any grieves, anything that's an emotional that is a distraction from what is really truly primary and focused that they can focus on. I show them how to focus so they're not distracted. I show them how to transcend the need for motivation so they're spontaneously inspired from within to go after what's really most meaningful to them. I show them how to live authentically and integral. And then I basically show them how to articulate and clarify what they really feel that their mission is and to focus on it. And I show them the manifestation formula that I've been using now for 46 years on how to manifest these intentions into reality. And I show them the Demartini Method, which is a method that is being used and being researched in various universities now on how to maximize human awareness and potential. So it clarifies mission, dissolves emotional baggage, it raises self-worth, makes them have the strategies they can go after that can help them achieve, makes them not get distracted by external influences, and show them how to use their brain to the maximum, how to use visualization, how to use mental capacities like sports figures have done, and just how to achieve more, how to do something extraordinary with their life and give themselves permission to shine, not shrink. So they're standing on shoulders, not shadows, or in shadows. So it's a very powerful program. It's not a rah-rah session. It's a very grounded, very real. I've taken thousands and thousands of people around the world through this program. And I ask people at the end of the program if they, how many of you learned something this weekend that you probably could have gone your entire life and never learned anywhere else? And every hand goes up. So I feel pretty certain about that.
It's so powerful, and I guess values are very centric to what drives us and allows us to be authentic. When we're living through our values, our true values, we seem to flow a lot more seamlessly through life.
Yes, our highest values are crucial to a empowered and inspired, spontaneous, gifted life.
And I was going to say, the people that do come to the course, Dr. De Martini, what do you find? What are the main reasons as to why people are coming to the course? Is it because they do feel a little bit lost in their life, or they are wanting to go to the next level? What's normally the catalyst for them to
You
rock up
know,
to the experience?
I've had every imaginable thing. I've had young children there, the young kids that are. I have a girl that's coming this week. Has written already 2 books, and she's, I think, about 10 or 11. She's already written books. She came at 7 and started writing books and published books and started being a professional speaker by the time she was 9. I have
Wow.
people that are already in their 90s, 80s, and 90s and say, I've retired. I'm tired of retired, and I want to get back and start a business. I've got people that are celebrities and extremely high achieving people, some billionaires that have been to the program. I've had people, we had probably 3 celebrities in London the other day, from actors to people that are sports personalities to golfers. I mean, I've had business people, we've had politicians there, we've had religious leaders there. I've had people from almost every walk of life, mothers that want to raise families. Some people come there because they want to grow their mental powers and want to use their mind to the fullest. Some people want to go there because they want to grow business. I'm interested in empowering all 7 areas. So we're going in and we talk about how to build wealth. We talk about how to build business. We talk about how to build the mind, how to communicate in relationships and dissolve emotional charges between people, how to wake up leadership, how to have more vitality and energy. Most people can't keep up with me. I go, 20 hours a day and people go, what? This guy's nuts. 7 days a week. And then, and how to be inspired by your life. Most people don't know how to live an inspired life. I'm absolutely certain I can show them how to do that. So the breakthrough experience is for all different ages, all different reasons. I've had people that have been through traumas and tragedies. I've had people that don't know what they want to do, to all the way to people that are extremely powerful and running major companies and multiple companies and are wanting to go to the next level. I cannot tell you what I'm going to see in a weekend, and they're
Wow.
all there together.
And what's the most difficult scenario that you've had to help someone break through, I guess?
I always say that there's nothing that the mortal body can experience that the immortal soul can't love. I don't know of anything that we can't help break through. But I've had people, we had a lady that was raped by 100 men, a motorcycle gang,
Wow.
which is hard to comprehend for 3.5 days. And we helped the person go through that, and now she's empowering women. We've had people that they went blind because of a caustic agent, and they couldn't see, and they felt that life was over, and we turned it into an opportunity. And as a professional speaker, they're speakers now. I've seen people who were multiple incested and had a father that went to 58-year sentence in prison for imprisoning a daughter for 12 years in a basement. Turn that into an opportunity, and recently been honored by the Queen of England because of the transformation she had from breakthrough and also what she's done with women. I've had people that went in to do Olympics and get gold medals that have done amazing things, starting out from a short period of time, having a dream and working on a dream. Right now I've got a girl that's 11 years old it runs a fashion company.
Wow.
A significant fashion company, and it has employees and everything, and is running the whole thing.
Wow.
I know a lady that went on to go and do a Disney, have her own TV show on Disney, and she was 9 when she came. I've seen so many transformations that if somebody saw what I saw every weekend, they'd probably be doing what I'm doing every weekend, because it's one of the most inspiring things I get to do on a daily basis. Very few people get to see authentic people on a daily basis. I do. I get to watch people's lives transform, open their heart, get clear about what they want to do, and get on with doing something and be inspired by it.
Yeah.
It's pretty good feel. I can't complain.
I
Watching
think,
that is rewarding.
oh, absolutely. I can only imagine how rewarding the work would be. And within a world of social media where we're so entrenched on our phones, etc., if a person does achieve a sense of clarity, in the experience, which I'm sure they do. And I'll definitely link all your books and the events in the show notes so that people can experience this magnificent transformation themselves. One thing that I'm really curious about, Dr. De Martini, is us humans, I feel we know what to do, but the difficult part is the consistency and keeping up perhaps the empowering habits. Do you have any advice for the listeners on how they can maybe get a little bit better about becoming consistent with perhaps their highest values and facets of their life that they want to improve?
Yes, I was in the 1980s when I was lecturing. I asked sometimes audiences to write down the number one question they'd like to address. And I'd have sometimes 1,000 people send in their question. And the most common question, believe it or not, that people ask is, how do I stay focused? And I tell people that if you're setting a goal that is aligned and congruent with your highest value, you will never have to ask that question. Wow. I don't ever have to be reminded to get focused on what I love doing, because your innermost dominant thought becomes your outermost tangible reality, and your innermost dominant thought is an expression of what you value most. But what people do is they compare themselves to others. They minimize themselves to people that they put above them. They inject those people's values into their life, cloud the clarity of what's important to them, and then try to be somebody they're not. As Emerson said, envy is ignorance and imitation is suicide. And so when they do is they scatter themselves and try to be a bunch of things instead of being the one thing that's most authentic. And the magnificence of who you are is far greater than any fantasies you'll impose on yourself. So finding that out is what the breakthrough experience is, and identifying what that highest priority is and structuring your life by priority and filling your day. If you don't fill your day with high priority actions that inspire you, your day fills up with low priority distractions that don't. And people don't get that simplicity. It's really amazingly simple, but we're so busy not knowing how to delegate things and not know how to produce income doing what we really love. So our vocation and vacation are the same, that we trap ourselves. And I try in the program to break people through of these things. Now, sometimes people are really stubborn and they're really in fear and they're really used to self-depreciating and they're running a story. Others are super achievers and they just grasp it and run with it. All they need to do is hear it. So there's a whole spectrum out there, and some I have to get really tough with, like a daddy figure, and sometimes I have to just guide and say it, and then they run with it. They take notes and go with it. But that is the key. You don't need it. Motivation is a symptom, never a solution for humanity. And if you need outside motivation, exogenous, extrinsic motivation, you haven't found what your mission is. Because when you find that, you don't need motivation. You're inspired from within. The calling, the métier, as they call it, the chief thing, finding that. That's what I work at in Breakthrough. That's why I teach so much about values, because your highest value is that.
It's so powerful, Dr. De Martini. Sometimes I'm literally lost for words when I listen to you and I learn from you. In terms of fear, I'd just like to touch on that a little bit, because I do think that people would like to achieve so much greatness in their life, and they have big visions and big dreams, but perhaps are held back by some fear. What process would you help the listeners through to help them overcome perhaps, a fear of failure, a fear of success or judgment? Is there a specific thing that you would work through with a client or a crowd to help them through that?
Yeah, I mentioned in the breakthrough experience 7 primary fears. The fear of not being intelligent enough, not being educated enough, not having a degree, not knowing enough, and hesitating because you don't think you know enough. But this is due to comparing yourself to somebody you think smarter than you and expecting yourself to know and be knowledgeable in an area that's not highest on your values. You're a genius in your highest values, but we're all idiots in our lowest. I'm very smart when it comes to human behavior, but give me a technology like a cell phone and all these other technology things, and that's not my highest values. I delegate that. I give that to other people and they take care of it for me. So if you look very carefully, you are going to have an anxiety and fear if you try to excel at something that's not highest on your value. And that's a feedback to let you know you're trying to be inauthentic. Then the second fear is the fear of failure itself, because you're comparing yourself to somebody you think's more achieving than you. But again, they're only achieving in the area that's highest on their values, just like you will achieve in the area that's highest on yours. But if you try to achieve in their values, not your values, you'll beat yourself up and they'll live in fear again, because your body's giving you feedback. Fear isn't your enemy, it's your friend. It's trying to get you to set authentic goals and chunk them down with strategies and make sure they're not fantasies. The third fear is the fear of not making money or losing money. And this is because you're not living in your executive center, you're emotional, you're unstable, and you're fantasizing about money instead of grounding yourself about it. And you don't have a value on wealth building. You have a value on immediate gratification and buying consumables instead of assets. And you won't get ahead that way. And you'll always be anxiety because of it. And that's because you're comparing to somebody else and trying to live in the lifestyles of the rich and famous instead of being rich and building wealth and not worrying about what other people think. Then the next fear is the fear of ill health, the rejection or the non-appreciation from your loved ones or your family. And this is because you're, again, minimizing yourself to somebody else that you're infatuated with or depend on. And you're trying to, again, fit in instead of stand out. You're conforming to mothers, fathers, or preachers and teachers, as I call it. And the next fear is the fear of rejection, but you only fear the rejection of somebody you put on a pedestal. If some kid on a bicycle comes up to you and cusses at you, you just go, okay, kid, you don't pay much attention. But if Bill Gates pulls up and rolls down a window in his limo and cusses you out, you think, oh my God, I can't believe that guy said that. Is that Bill Gates? Because now you give power to somebody because you think they have something you don't. And we're not here to compare ourselves to others. We're here to compare ourselves to our own dreams and our own actions to priorities. The next one is the ill health, death, or disease, or you're not feeling you're as half attractive or as beautiful as you'd like. And this is because you're comparing yourself to other people. All the fears are comparisons to yourself to others instead of comparing your daily actions to your own dreams. Last one is the fear of not following the morals and ethics of some spiritual authority that you subordinate to. And the truth is nobody's more spiritual or less spiritual than anybody else. They just have a different set of values. And what's meaningful to them may not be what's meaningful to you. So trying to live in somebody else's moralities is foolish. So as long as we subordinate to people on the outside and try to live, vicariously through them and minimize ourselves, we're going to live in fear because we're going to set up fantasies for who we're supposed to be instead of being true to ourselves. And the fear is our friend. It's trying to let us know you're not setting goals that are true and authentic. They haven't been chunked down into strategies that are real. And you're wanting a fantasy because you're in your amygdala instead of in your executive center. Set priorities and set goals that are according to the real high values. And your executive center comes online, you see inspired vision, you strategically plan them, you execute them, and you have self-governance, you don't get distracted, and you stay focused.
I was, the one thing that popped up when thanks for that, I really appreciate it. That's such a great explanation of the fears and the methodology through which you speak to that. The one thing that I was thinking about when you were speaking through that, Dr. De Martini, the word love just powerfully come out when you were speaking through that. And one of my good friends, Melissa Ambrosini, who's also interviewed you, one of her powerful messages is to choose love over fear. I was just wondering how important love has been as part of your overall teachings, and what's it taught you about life?
Well, many people have confused love with infatuation. And people who get a dopamine high and a serotonin high and oxytocin and vasopressin, and they get, juvenilely dependent, they get bound and bonded, and they get fantasied, and they get enkephalons and endorphins and estrogen, and they live in a fantasy world. I don't define that as love. I define love as a synthesis and synchronicity of all complementary opposites. Because the very person you're in a relationship with is going to be sometimes nice if you support their values. They can be mean if you challenge their values. They can be kind and cruel and, supportive and challenging and positive and negative and peaceful and wrathful and considerate and inconsiderate and generous and stingy. Every imaginable thing that a human being can have, you can expect that in a relationship. And if you think that, when they support me, they love me, and if they don't, they hate me, you're still living in a polarized perspective of what love is. Love's the synthesis of both sides. It's the synchronicity of these two sides. And the person that lives in their executive center and lives by high priority is more resilient and adaptable, more objective, and sees and embraces both sides within themselves and the people that they care about. And this is where love emerges. True love is the foundation of mastery. The love of wisdom and the wisdom of love, that is what Howard Hughes taught me. And I'm a firm believer that true love is worth pursuing the understanding of and the expression of. But fantasy, romantic passion can be futile and volatile. It's like an animal behavior. And I think that Aristotle warned against this, and Parmenides warned against this. I could go down the list of philosophers through the ages that understood this. And it hasn't changed to this day.
Does the fact that men have more difficulty opening up emotions-wise make it more difficult for true love to really blossom in a relationship?
I'm not convinced that men have difficulty showing their love. Sometimes women confuse emotions with love, and because they can emote, sometimes they'll think that's love. Actually, emotions are usually conscious and unconscious splits, and not integrated states of mind where true love is. So I'm not going to say that men or women really dominate that, because I see men sometimes have those same emotions about their business or about their finance, and women may have it about their relationships, about their children or their social events. But I believe that we both have that capacity. But the men very commonly in our society, in the Western society, are more commonly, having to be a macho person, so they don't show feelings. But true love is honored. I in the breakthrough experience, I make sure that everybody has a moment of true grace and love by Saturday night. And I have them methodically go through a scientific exercise that gets them that. And then I show them the profoundness of what that is. And many people say, wow, I didn't even know this was what true love is. And when they experience it, it's more profound than any happiness or any sadness or any emotional states or any things that make us seek or avoid like an animal. It's profound. And it's the foundation of all great achievements, the foundation of true spirituality, the foundation of mastery, as far as I'm concerned. So yeah, it's the foundation of I believe that some some cosmologists were panpsychics and believe that the universe was made out of love. John Archibald Wheeler at the Institute of Advanced Studies believed that the universe was that way. He has a formula for it. And he was not a slouch when it comes to physics. He was across the hallway from Einstein and then Freeman Dyson and next door to Witten at the Institute of Advanced Studies, which I've spent time at. And these guys believe that this was the foundation of all the universe.
It's such a magnificent energy to operate from. I realized the importance of it when I did lose my marriage. And I guess listening to interviews back when I was in troubled times really got me out of the slump. But if there was a listener, Dr. De Martini, who is perhaps suffering, from post-divorce or a difficult situation, a loss in their life at the moment, is there any practical tips that you would give to the listener to help them, transform? Naturally, I would say come to the breakthrough experience, but I'm just keen to hear.
As you know, at the breakthrough experience, I demonstrate my grief process there.
Right.
I've done it 3,563 times, and it's not failed once. And they're doing research at Yale University on it now, and now it looks like Prince Edward Island University. Because no one has to grieve ever again more than 3 hours. And people can't comprehend that. They just assume, it's an animal behavior, humans do it, it's normal. No, it's not. It's actually unhealthy. And it's a sign you actually have blocked love. Because when you really love somebody, you feel their presence. So if somebody thinks they've lost something, I ask them 4 basic questions. What specific trait, action, inaction do you perceive that you admired about this person that you perceive now is missing? And you itemize that and get specific on it, not vague, not broad generalities, very specific things that you miss. Because people want to say, oh, I miss everything about them. No, you don't. You don't miss their screaming. You don't miss their farts. You don't miss their yelling. You don't miss their poor management of money. You didn't miss their over shopping. You missed only the things that caused dopamine, oxytocin, serotonin in the brain that supported your values that you admired. And when people get that, they narrow it down. And then we go, and now who is providing that? See, when your wife moved on or you moved on, other people surfaced and merged in your life to start doing things with you, showing affection, hugging, talking to you, having engagement, interacting with you, and eating with you, and doing things. If you find out exactly quantitatively who took on all those roles until it's quantitatively equal, then look at the downside of when they were there and they were demonstrating those traits to break the infatuation with those original traits. And then the benefits of the new people doing it until the benefits equal the drawbacks. I guarantee you it's dissolvable. The grief process is just dissolvable. It just takes a matter of usually an hour and a half to 3 hours max. Never seen it take more than 3 hours. And I've done that on television and radio and proven it, and money back guarantees and bet people, and I've never had it work anything but 100%. So there's no reason for somebody to have to be missing out. Whether you miss out on money, whether you miss out on relationships, the death of a child, it doesn't matter what it is. I can break it through, and I do that every weekend in the breakthrough experience. And I've been doing that for years. Since 1984, I've been doing that. So I'm absolutely certain that's a dissolvable. I've figured out the science of that. I know exactly what to do with that. I've trained about 5,000 to 6,000 people on doing that, and they're doing research on universities on it because I know it's going to revolutionize the field.
It's so incredible. Just the thought of not having to continuously suffer is so powerful. You can't put a price on that. So, I'm definitely going to encourage everyone to experience the breakthrough experience and the Demartini Method. So, I'm so inspired by that work. I was going to ask Dr. De Martini, I've got a few questions left. I'm really driven by the notion of legacy, and I was just wondering, what's your overarching legacy? How would you like to be remembered as an individual?
Well, it's interesting. I was asked, they're doing a film documentary on my life, and they're trying to narrow down what the title was. And I told them, why don't you just call it A Man on a Mission? And I feel that summarizes my life better than anything. But I wanted to study the great masters in every field and try to find the most universal principles, and then build a foundation of knowledge to build a life on it. And I didn't want impractical information. I wanted it to be practical so somebody could use that to go and create an inspired life. And I think if I was to be remembered by it, it's just the diligence of that pursuit and the consistent travel. I full-time travel around the world. I live on a ship that travels, and I full-time travel on flying. I don't live at any one place. It's constantly on the move. And my lifestyle is I think, pretty consistently demonstrating that I'm committed to the outcome of transforming and inspiring people around the world. So I think that would be the impact. The method, the Demartini Method, the value applications, and other tools that I've put together that I think will probably stand way beyond my life. It's already happening around the world, so I think that's inevitable.
Can't wait to see the movie. And you've read so many books, Dr. De Martini, over and above your own books. If you had one that you could give to future generations that's really been profound for you, could you name one that maybe comes top of mind?
I tell people to go and read Mortimer Adler's Syntopicon Volume 1 and 2. It's 2 volumes. They're about 800 pages each. And they're the greatest ideas from the greatest minds over the last 2,700 years summarized. It's the best 2 books that I think a person could read. It's like a PhD in life. Wow. And I think that those 2 books are essential if you want to understand life. So they're 2 of thousands that make up the foundation of some of my courses. And I tell people to read that because it's a good education.
Excellent. Thank you. I've got 3 rapid fire questions and then one last question. The first rapid fire question, Dr. De Martini, is what's one thing that people can do to live a happier life?
Well, I don't pursue happiness in the classical sense. I'm more in line with Aristotle's eudaimonia and well-being than the pursuit of a hedonistic happiness, because I always say happiness and sadness are paired off. A fulfilled life, an inspired life, a grateful life, a meaningful life, a well-being life, a fulfilling life. That I think the key is to simply identify what's truly highest on your priorities and stick to it. If you ask every single day, what is the highest priority action step I can do right now to help me fulfill my mission and have the most fulfilling, inspired life I can? Ask, what is that highest priority action I can do at that moment? If you stick to the highest priority actions every day, you're doing the most a human being can do. And I think that's the first and key question to ask yourself. And that would be the answer.
Thank you. And what's one thing that people can do to live a more purposeful life?
The same thing. I don't think that's going to change.
Sure.
Identifying what's the highest value is your purpose, your telos, your chief aim is the most effective and efficient pathway to fulfill the greatest amount of voids of the greatest amount of value. So your highest value and your purpose are synonymous. My highest value is teaching. My purpose is teaching. So I don't need motivation to do that. I never have to be reminded. You won't find anybody on the earth that you will meet that's known me for the last 46 years that you will ever be able to find it, which says he needed motivation. I don't need motivation. I'm inspired from within to do what I do. And that's because I found out what that highest value is and I structured my life around it. And when people do that, their life changes. And then people don't believe it can be that simple, but it is that simple. And people, when they access that, their lives are transformed. Their trajectory, their life changes.
Of course, and it just highlights the importance of your program. The last rapid fire question is, what's one thing that people can do to live a regret-free life?
Well, I don't look back at my life and say, I wish I'd have done this, I should have done this. I don't have Bonnie Ware's 5 regrets that most people do. Most of those are because you didn't live by priority.
Yeah.
Most of those are because you had non-objective pursuits. You were subjectively biased to monopolar visions of one-sidedness. You expect other people to live in your values. You expect to live in other people's values. You expected one-sided outcomes, positive without negative, happy without sad, kind without cruel, one-sided life, which is futile. The desire for that which is unavailable and the desire to avoid that which is unavoidable is the source of human suffering. So I don't waste my time on delusionary pursuits that way. And I think that that's the key to keeping a very grateful life, a very inspired life. And there's no reason why a person can't do that.
Thanks, Dr. De Martini. Last question for you, the final question. And I'm so grateful for the insights that you've given the listeners today. It's so fundamental for us to find that key driving value. And I definitely recommend that everyone who's listening in does follow through and experiences the course, the breakthrough experience and the Demartini Method, and obviously all your books. So we'll put them all in the show notes. My last question is, imagine it is the end of your life. Let's say your last day, and I handed you a piece of paper and a pen, and you had one thing that you could write on that piece of paper to inspire future generations to believe in their own inner greatness, their own self-worth. What would that one piece of advice be?
Well, you're going to think I'm redundant, but if they stick to what they value most and not subordinate to the world on the outside, don't compare yourself to other people. Compare your daily actions to your highest values. If you're out on a football field and you're constantly comparing yourself to what other people are doing in the field, you're not going to be doing what's wisest that you've been trained for. Stick to the highest priority actions. If you fill your day with high priority actions that inspire you, it doesn't fill up with low priority distractions that don't. If you fill your day with challenges that inspire you, your day doesn't fill up with challenges that don't. And prioritize who you hang out with, prioritize what you're doing, prioritize what you're saying, prioritize how you spend your money, prioritize all the actions that are essential in your life, and delegate. If you're not doing something that's meaningful, that's inspiring to you, that produces an income because it serves people, that solves a problem and a challenge in people's lives, where you get rewarded and your vocation and vacation are the same, and then you have the income to delegate all lower priority things to help the employment of other people that would love to do that, and to help engage people and hire people that would really love to do what you want to delegate. The second you master that skill, your life takes off. And doing that is smart. I don't do desperate things. I let go of things. Anything that devalues me, I let go of. And anything that inspires me, I take actions on. That's a very simple, so simple people overlook the obvious.
Dr. De Martini, I want to graciously acknowledge you. You are, without doubt, an incredible man on a mission, one who graciously shares his wisdom and knowledge with the world. Your material has had such an amazing impact on so many hundreds, if not millions, people's lives. And I guess I just wanted to graciously acknowledge you for all the work that you do to show up, to impart everything that you know. And I'm really so grateful that you've imparted so much great takeaways to the listeners on the show today. I feel like I'm in the presence of greatness and I'm standing on your shoulders. And you have enabled me to step forward in my mission to help other people to believe in themselves and follow their dreams. So collectively, I'm so honored and grateful that we've united today to speak to the audience. And I just want to really say thanks so much.
Well, thank you for the opportunity to do your podcast. Whoever is listening out there, it's great that you're taking the time away from other things and to feed your mind with information that can give you an advanced opportunities in life. And so thank you for taking the time to care enough about humanity to go out and contribute, because every day we contribute to humanity, there's a fulfillment in our lives. And if we do that and exemplify that, that's the best teacher for all we can do. And then when they pass the torch, which they will, somewhere along the line, you're saying this to me, I said this to Paul Bragg, somebody will say this to you, and it will just pass down through the ages. And so we'll stand on each other's shoulders as we go down the path.
It's awesome. I'm so grateful. Thank you, Dr. De Martini. Is there any last parting words that you would like to tell the listeners in terms of where they can find you? Anything that you value with the time that we have left that you'd like to share? Sure.
I'd just like to say that whoever is listening, give yourself permission to do something extraordinary on planet Earth. So far, this is the best planet to do things on. And you might as well do something extraordinary while you have the time here. Time goes by pretty quick. And, you want to fill your day with very high priority things that are really meaningful. If you want a meaningful life, fill it every day with meaningful things. And go make a difference. The most difference you'll make is being authentic to you. There's nobody exactly like you. So if you just be you make the greatest difference. Because if you try to fit in and be like everybody else, you dilute your potential to make a difference. And you become a conformer and live in the shadows of people instead of on the shoulders of giants. So give yourself permission to shine and give yourself permission to do something extraordinary on this planet.
This will echo for a long time, Dr. De Martini. I'm so grateful for you. Thank you once again for coming on the show.
Thank you. Appreciate the opportunity.